February 2020 saw the release of Universal's The Invisible Man. The Invisible Man was one of the last films launched in theaters before we knew what anti-maskers were.
I would rather die than wear a mask. Relax. This is a false flag flu. It's a pandemic.
But it's also not the movie we were promised. Back in 2017, Universal announced the creation of the Dark Universe Cinematic Universe, or Dooku.
Yes, he's Johnny Depp is gonna be Invisible Man. What? They're doing the Dooku, the Dark Universe Cinematic Universe. It's all the monsters again.
The first film in the Dooku was The Mummy, which starred Tom Cruise and a sexy toilet paper Halloween costume. Universal then released this picture, showing each of the stars of their upcoming planned films. Russell Crowe would star as Dr. Jekyll, Javier Bardem would be Frankenstein's monster, and Johnny Depp was supposed to be the Invisible Man. Unfortunately, The Mummy was a train wreck of a film, and after advertising costs, it failed to make any money at the box office. I mean, who knew that The Mummy's incredible trailer would be a sign of things to come? After this disaster, Universal halted the production of their announced Dooku projects and decided to instead hand them over to smaller production companies such as Blumhouse.
Here we will explore true facts.
Try to imagine an amount of money that you can't even imagine. Now imagine losing all of it. That is how a big studio movie flop do. Universal sat down with Leigh Whannell to direct The Invisible Man and pitched him as the protagonist of his own film. However, Whannell thought The Invisible Man made more sense as an antagonist, and the film eventually became a science fiction thriller which would explore themes of domestic abuse and gaslighting. But if you don't know what gaslighting is, well, don't worry, I'll explain it to you. Gaslighting is when you're having an argument with someone and you start to lose. So to avoid losing the argument, you douse the other person in gasoline and light them on fire. Writing a movie about domestic abuse was an ironic choice, considering Johnny Depp, who was originally cast in the lead role, was at the time facing domestic abuse allegations from Amber Heard, whom we now know is a big liar pants on fire.
I'm not the one who fucking throws fucking pots and
those are different. That's different.
Else at me.
That's different. Just because I've thrown pots and pans does not mean that you come and knock on the door. Just because they're vases.
And all of that led us to 2020's The Invisible Man. The plot of this film, and I will now be getting into heavy spoiler territory, begins with our main character Cecilia escaping her boyfriend Adrian Griffin. Adrian, a wealthy businessman who works in optics and technology, has been mentally and physically abusing Cecilia during their relationship, desiring to control every aspect of her life. She drugs him with sleeping pills and escapes with her sister Emily. Later, we find Cecilia hiding at the house of James Lanier and his daughter Sydney. James is a childhood friend as well as a detective. Emily comes over and tells Cecilia that Adrian has committed suicide, and a lawyer meets with her to tell her that Adrian has left her $5 million. Cecilia, however, is suspicious, and out of apparent paranoia, refuses to believe Adrian would kill himself, despite the lawyer, who turns out to be Adrian's brother Tom, showing her physical evidence of the contrary. However, several bizarre events lead her to believe that Adrian has used his expertise in optics and his considerable fortune to turn himself invisible. Cecilia soon gets confirmation of the existence of the Invisible Man when she dumps a can of paint on his head. Cecilia escapes the house using a rideshare and goes back to Adrian's house, where she discovers the invisibility suit in his basement lab. She takes the suit and hides it in Adrian's closet, barely managing to escape the Invisible Man when he follows her there. From here on out, I'm just going to abbreviate the Invisible Man as TIM, or Tim, because I'm gonna have to say it quite a lot. Cecilia texts her sister for help, who agrees to meet her at a restaurant. Cecilia tells Emily everything she knows, but their reunion is literally cut short when Tim cuts Emily's throat. Cecilia is blamed as the murderer and is sent to a psych ward, where after some blood tests, learns that she's pregnant with Adrian's child. Adrian's brother Tom meets with her and reveals that he knows that Tim is real, and tells her that if she agrees to be in a relationship with Adrian again, then the charges will be dropped, but if she doesn't, then she won't receive the $5 million and she'll be charged with murder. Cecilia refuses and steals a pen, announcing in her empty cell room that she's going to kill herself. Tim tries to stop her and a fight ensues, causing the suit to become partially revealed. A guard hears the commotion and enters the room, causing Tim to go on a killing spree.
Killing spree. Double kill. Triple kill. Rampage. Kilimanjaro.
Cecilia then escapes the hospital in Tim's wake, and in the parking lot he tells her that he won't harm her, but instead threatens to kill James and Sydney. Cecilia steals a car and rushes back to their house, and gets there in time to save James and Sydney by spraying Tim with a fire extinguisher and shooting him. She takes off Tim's mask, but to her surprise it isn't Adrian, but the lawyer Tom, Adrian's brother. It turns out that Tim was Tom, or at least in this particular instance Tom was Tim. I mean, it's impossible to know if Tim was Tom the entire time, or if Tom was Tim just in this last scene. The police then find Adrian trapped in a hidden room of his own house. He claims that Tom orchestrated the entire thing. Cecilia agrees to meet with Adrian, and gets him to admit that he was Tim too. So both Adrian and Tom were Tim. Tim was both Tom and Adrian. Sometimes Tim was Adrian, and sometimes Tim was Tom. I am a genius of comedy. Cecilia pretends to go to the bathroom, but instead goes to Adrian's closet, where she earlier hid one of the invisibility suits. She then literally and figuratively cuts him out by slicing his throat, making it seem like he committed suicide. The film ends with her walking into the night with the suit tucked in her bag. I gotta say, I loved The Invisible Man. Elizabeth Moss pulled off another incredible performance, and the film makes me tense just by panning over an empty room. Every time it shows me an empty space, I'm constantly looking for the Invisible Man. What was that? Is someone sitting in that chair? What's over here? Hey, that shirt moved. It moved slightly, he's definitely here. But then again, maybe it didn't. Or maybe it did! We can't know for sure! Suppressing fire! There are a few plot holes in the movie, such as how Adrian managed to fake his own death. But the most ridiculous thing that happens is that Cecilia manages to get a rideshare within just a few seconds in a rural neighborhood. I mean, come on, movie, way to break my suspension of disbelief. Aside from the rideshare debacle, the movie is surprisingly airtight, but there are a few ways we can improve Cecilia's chances of getting out of this scenario, by removing risks, saving the lives of her loved ones, or increasing the speed at which she catches the Invisible Man. So together, we will try to beat the Invisible Man. But before that, we need to pore over the conditions that Cecilia is facing, so that everyone knows the same set of facts. We do this so that you can get how I came to my solutions, and also so you can come up with your own solutions if you so desire. But mostly it's so I don't get a bunch of comments that don't take these facts into consideration, such as, why didn't you just kick him in the nuts? Well, because, Lemmy, his nuts are invisible. He has invisible nuts. His nuts could be anywhere, and you'd have known that if you had listened to all of the film's conditions. So let's talk about those conditions, and then we can talk about how to beat the Invisible Man. The film takes place in and around San Francisco. James and Sydney live in Oakland, and Adrian probably lives in Sausalito because you need to take the Golden Gate Bridge to get there from James's house. The hospital she visited after she blacked out was probably St. Francis Memorial Hospital, since the previous aerial shot shows downtown San Francisco, which is where St. Francis is. The Santa Marina Treatment Center is fictional, but Santa Marina is a small street in San Francisco, so that's its most likely location. A majority of the film takes place in late January 2020, over a period of approximately 15 days. How do we know that it's 15 days? Well, buckle in, because we're about to do a deep dive on the uterus. We know that it's 15 days because when Cecilia gets her blood test and finds out she's pregnant, she's surprised.
What is the best time to sex to become pregnant?
Women get periods every 28 days or so, and they ovulate around 14 days before their next period. Pregnancy is only possible during ovulation. After a woman is pregnant, it takes 7 days for the pregnancy hormone to show up on a blood test. So the earliest she can see if she's pregnant is approximately 7 days after she's been impregnated. Cecilia learns about her pregnancy 7 days after she takes the blood test. Therefore, at the very minimum, 14 days have passed since she was impregnated. This time window works because she's surprised at her pregnancy, suggesting she has had no sign that she's pregnant. Her surprise thus suggests that she hasn't missed a period yet. If the blood test were taken at any other time in her cycle, Cecilia would have missed a period and would be alerted that she might be pregnant. Therefore, this scene at the treatment center must take place approximately 14 days after she left Adrian, since she's surprised to learn of her pregnancy. The next day, she kills the Invisible Man, ending the main conflict. So the time period from when she leaves Adrian to when she kills Tom is approximately 15 days.
Oh my god, are you charting our menstrual cycles? I mean, this is really creepy. I don't understand why you would do this.
I can explain. By the time I realized what I was actually measuring, it had started to yield really positive results for everybody, so I kept doing it.
The following morning, on day 16, the SWAT team finds Adrian. The final scene takes place an indeterminate amount of time later, but based on the bruises and cuts on his hands and face, the final scene probably takes place at least 14 days after Adrian is found, which is how long it would take for these wounds to completely heal. So the final time frame of the movie is 30 days, but the main conflict is just 15 days in length. Although time isn't the most important factor, if we can think of a solution that works faster than 15 days, that would be great. Now let's talk about the invisibility suit. It renders the user completely invisible, but that's about all it does. While it covers the body from head to toe, it doesn't appear to offer any sort of protection. Cecilia is able to easily stab through it with just a pen, and it proved very vulnerable to gunfire. What's more, the suit will start to malfunction and become visible if any part of it is damaged. It can also be made visible by coating the exterior, such as with paint, with a fire extinguisher, or with rain. However, it can be cleaned in a hurry apparently, as the Invisible Man is able to wash off this oil-based paint in only a few seconds. And machine washable, darling, that's a new feature. There appear to be 3 suits in total. Adrian has one, Tom has the other, and the third was in Adrian's lab, which Cecilia later hid in Adrian's walk-in closet. Every time the Invisible Man appears to teleport, it's because the two brothers are in 2 places at once. Near the end of the film, the Invisible Man at the treatment center says he's going to kill Sydney.
Now you've only got yourself to blame for that innocent young girl's death.
Only a few minutes later, the Invisible Man attacks Sydney, even though it should take over 20 minutes to drive from the treatment center to where Sydney lives in Oakland. This is because Adrian uses one suit to threaten Cecilia, while Tom, using another suit, goes to Sydney's house. When Adrian leaves the treatment center, he isn't driving to Sydney. He's driving home to tie himself up in his basement. The reason his knuckles and face have bruises is because he just fought the guards a few hours earlier. We know that there are 3 suits because it would take 3 suits to account for the locations of every Invisible Man, knowing that one of them is either in Adrian's lab or later in the film, Adrian's closet. Now let's talk about the motivations of the villain. Adrian's goals are threefold. First, he wants to punish Cecilia for leaving him. Tom tells her as much in their 3rd meeting. Adrian wants to play mind games and gaslight her, in one case literally. He wants her to feel like she can't trust herself. Secondly, he wants to isolate her from her support network as much as possible, which means attacking her sister through email, hitting Sydney and making it look like Cecilia did it, and so on. Once these goals have been met, Adrian's ultimate goal is for Cecilia to return to their relationship. Because of this, while he may harm Cecilia, he will not kill her under any circumstances. Adrian needs Cecilia.
He needs you because you don't need him.
Her friends and family, however, are open season, which means that James, Sydney, and Emily could be killed. Adrian's brother Tom essentially acts as Adrian's lackey. He does what Adrian asks, even going as far as killing someone, but has no conviction or master plan of his own. Cecilia says it best here.
You're just the jellyfish version of him. Everything but the spine.
Our goal will be to find solutions for Cecilia that will either beat the Invisible Man faster, save more lives, present less risk to Cecilia and her family, or all the above. The first solution is to shoot the Invisible Man. I know, it's brilliant. Oh, thank you. Please, hold your applause. When Cecilia is stuck inside the San Marino Treatment Center, she manages to stab the Invisible Man, causing the suit to glitch, which leads to him having to fight a large group of guards. During this fight scene, an unconscious guard drops a gun directly in front of Cecilia. So while the Invisible Man is fighting the guards, why doesn't she pick up this gun and shoot him while he's distracted? It lands right in front of her, but she never bothers trying to kill him. Yes, he is sporadically invisible in this scene, but when he hits the guards, she should generally know where his body is. His suit isn't bulletproof, just shoot him. Problem solved, right? Well, sort of. The guards are idiots, and despite personally witnessing the Invisible Man attacking his fellow guardsmen, this dude seems to think that Cecilia is the threat. Maybe he thinks she's telekinetic. In any case, he points his gun at her. So if Cecilia tries to shoot the Invisible Man, this guy might think she's trying to shoot the guards, and would shoot her if she tries to put her hand on the pistol. But let's pretend that the guard doesn't shoot her, and Cecilia manages to shoot the Invisible Man. Adrian would be killed, his suit would be revealed to the world, and her murder charge would be lifted. This would be a great outcome, right? Actually, no, because she still doesn't know that Tom has the other suit. Adrian was never going to kill Cecilia, but Tom might, now that she's killed his brother. Having killed Adrian, Cecilia will think that she's safe from the Invisible Man, when in fact she's in more danger than ever. But whether or not Tom would do this is up in the air. While he was willing to kill Sydney when ordered to, he's also described as spineless. Without Adrian's authority, he may not do anything. So while shooting Adrian may sound like a great idea, it could have some unintended and nasty consequences if Tom decides to get revenge. But here's an even dumber solution. When Cecilia gets back to Adrian's house and finds the suit in the basement, why didn't she just put on the suit? The suit is right there, just put it on. Put on the suit! The suit? Put it on! Yes, the Invisible Man does show up and hunts her to Adrian's closet, but she still had plenty of time to put on the suit and walk out of there. You could argue, well, maybe she didn't know how it worked. Maybe it would have taken too long. But she didn't know how it worked when she killed Adrian at the end of the film, and she had just as much time then as she did in this scene. If Cecilia put on the suit, she could try to run by leaving the country, but she'd be running from a man who has the wealth, technology, and willpower to chase her around the globe. Plus, her sister, James, and Sydney are still at risk, and Adrian would have no problem killing them if it would get Cecilia back. So running probably isn't the best idea. Taking the suit, then, isn't really a full solution to the problem. Putting on the suit means she has even the playing field, but it doesn't actually make beating Tom and Adrian that much easier. They still have suits too. She could maybe wait until they take them off and steal their suits or something. The whole thing would become a strange game of 3D chess. Invisible 3D chess. Plus, imagine how stupid looking a fight would be between two invisible people. You won't get away with this, Adrian. Oh yeah? And who's gonna stop me? You? You don't have the guts. This ends tonight, Adrian. Yeah. Maybe Cecilia should have done this because it does give her, well, invisibility, but there's no way to know how this would play out. She can't protect her friends or family in any way, and she still can't see the Invisible Man. She can only protect herself, but who knows for how long. This next solution is real stupid, but I'm pretty sure it would work. All she has to do is get back with her incredibly abusive boyfriend. Problem solved. Hashtag me too. Am I right, ladies? At the end of the film, Cecilia agrees to meet with Adrian and gets him to admit that he was the Invisible Man. Once she learns this, she puts on the suit that she left in his closet and cuts his throat, making it look like a suicide. But here's the thing, she could have done this at any point in the movie. Once she throws paint on the Invisible Man and has seen with her own eyes that he's real, she could just agree to go back to him. Her submission is Adrian's ultimate goal. Once she agrees to go back to him, her friends and family would be safe. I'm not sure how Adrian would then figure out how to unfake his own death without Tom dying, but he managed to fake it in the first place, so surely he'll be able to think of something. Wait, how did he fake his own death in the first place? They found his dead body in his house. house. And then they cremated that body. Anyways, if he can pull off that magic trick, then he should be able to find a good excuse to come back to life. The point is, Cecilia can either outright kill him or make it look like a suicide, just like she did in the film, but do so weeks earlier. If she is blamed for his death, she can take a suit and do whatever she wants. She could walk onto a plane to Bolivia and make a new life for herself there. Or go to the world's true paradise, Canada. Did you know that we put gravy on our fries? Crazy, right? She could also decide to hunt down Tom, but as we discussed in the last solution, having the suit doesn't guarantee a result in and of itself. The advantage to this solution is that she could save her sister and effectively end the conflict weeks earlier than the movie, but it involves just as much risk, and there is still the problem of Tom. If Cecilia is blamed for Adrian's death, Tom may come looking for revenge, either on her or her friends and family. He has a suit of his own, remember, one that Cecilia doesn't know about, but he's described as the spineless version of Adrian. He may do nothing. In the best case scenario, Cecilia could make it look like a suicide, end the film several weeks faster, save the life of her sister, and walk away with a suit of her own. Not too shabby. But the best and least risky solution of all is buy a dog. When the Invisible Man goes looking for Cecilia in Adrian's house, Cecilia is alerted to the Invisible Man's presence because the dog starts barking at him. And later in this scene, the dog runs right up to the Invisible Man and starts barking at him. This suggests that dogs can sense the Invisible Man. So here's my proposal. Cecilia waits until it rains. We know that the suit becomes visible when it rains. So if Cecilia leaves the house when it's raining, the Invisible Man won't be able to follow her without being seen. She calls a rideshare and goes shopping for a new best friend. What we're looking for is a dog with a good sense of smell that's also physically intimidating. I think the best choice would be a German Shepherd. They are large, loyal, and have a keen sense of smell. And best of all, they're the second most popular breed in America, which makes them easy to find. So she goes out and gets a German Shepherd. Just imagine this is a German Shepherd. I was too lazy to draw one. This will be her early warning system that the Invisible Man is nearby. The next thing she needs is a way to see the Invisible Man. There are a couple things she could buy, but the best option would be a thermal imaging camera. We know that the suit is thin, so thin that it can easily be penetrated by a pen. Odds are that the suit is not heat-proof. Thermal imaging equipment is not hard to find and can be bought at hardware or hunting stores. Here are a few I managed to find in the Oakland area. The next thing she needs is a way to mark the Invisible Man so that other people can see him. Similar to It Follows, the largest obstacle Cecilia needs to overcome is getting other people to believe that the Invisible Man is real. If she can make him visible in front of James or Sydney, then she can enlist their help. A paintball gun would be ideal, and you can find these at Dick's Sporting Goods or Walmart. Then all Cecilia needs to do is come home, with her dog as an early warning system, her thermal imaging camera as a way to see him, and her paintball gun to mark him. If Cecilia can prove the existence of the Invisible Man, then James, Sydney, and her sister can take measures to protect themselves, and James can rally the police. Adrian would essentially be out of options. Cecilia would be protected, and Adrian would have no way to get to her or her loved ones. If the police don't catch the Invisible Man, Cecilia can surround her home with thermal imaging cameras, keep the house secure, keep her dog by her side, and never stay home alone. Remember, she inherited a ton of money from Adrian's will, so she definitely has the resources to pull this off. She should be able to live the rest of her life without having to worry about the Invisible Man. There are a few downsides, however. Essentially, this is a hands-off, non-lethal approach to the conflict. Cecilia will be enlisting the help of others, which means she will have less control over the possible outcomes. Secondly, it takes 15 days for it to rain in the film, which means that Cecilia will need to stay safe until then. But the upside is that time doesn't really matter. Adrian's goal is to gaslight Cecilia and make her feel like she's going crazy. He wants to isolate her and make her feel like she has no other choice but to go back to him. But this this is totally fine because it means that she isn't in any serious danger. The Invisible Man can fuck with her and her friends and family, send her sister threatening emails, make it seem like she hit Sydney. All of this is really annoying, but it's not life-threatening. As long as Cecilia doesn't try to expose the Invisible Man, which is what got her sister killed, the Invisible Man is annoying, but not life-threatening. Cecilia just needs to buy time until it rains. Then she can get a dog to detect him. I believe that getting a dog is the best, least risky solution for beating the Invisible Man. But if you disagree and you think that you have a better idea on how to beat the Invisible Man, please let me know about it in the comments. Thanks for watching, and until next time, this has been the Film Herald.